Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you for joining today's webinar hosted by Sikh Research Institute, also known as SIKRI. My name is Balpreet Kaur and I will be the host and moderator for today's session. The presentation will begin shortly. I'd like to introduce our presenters, Harlif Kaur and Jasmine Kaur. Harlif Kaur has been an active courseware developer for the Soji Elementary School curriculum and creates programming for families and resource materials for educators. She founded Kikli, a company committed to developing fun and innovative tools for learning Punjabi, including Ik Chota Bacha and other Sikh nursery rhymes, a collaborative project involving the Ujjwal Bidar Singh Memorial Foundation. Jasmine Kaur has served as SIKRI's Director of Education from 2006 and to 2013, as well as civic lead for many years. She is currently working with SIKRI's newest project, Sikhya, Redefining Sikh Education, and continues to develop and present interactive teaching materials for families and educators in SIKRI's pre-K to 12 development. And without further ado, I would like to pass it over to Jasmine Kaur and Harlif Kaur to begin today's presentation.
Okay. Actually, Balpreet Kaur, if you can please make Harlif for the presenter, she will upload the presentation.
Yep, Harlif Kaur is now the presenter.
Okay. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to the webinar. And we will go ahead and begin our presentation about the Char Sahibzade. If you take a look at the image on the screen right now, what do you think's going on in this image? What do you think's happening? Any guesses? So this is a painting of an image of Vaisakhi of 1699, and we thought we would begin this webinar talking a little bit about providing some background information about what led up to what happened with the Char Sahibzade. So in 1699, this is also known as the formation of Khalsa, but you know, actually the formation of Khalsa began well 200 years before 1699, right? So it began with a seed that was planted by Guru Nanak in 1469, and that seed, it flourished into a beautiful Sikhida Bhutta, which finally in 1699 Guru Gobind Singh Ji, he created, he gave us a formal identity known as the Khalsa. So this was such an important event, and if we think about it, let's think about what was going on in our history at this time. Why was 1699 so important? Why do you think this was such an important year in Sikh history? So at this time, Aurangzeb, he was the emperor, and he was determined to have a kingdom where everyone just believed in one religion, right? And he wanted everyone to be followers of Islam. And he tried to do this in either by threatening people or by hurting the citizens, and even killing people who refused to convert. So the Vaisakhi of 1699, it marked a really important point for Sikhs, because at this time, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, he basically let the world know that, you know what, this is what my Khalsa looks like, and this is what my Khalsa believes in, and this is what we stand for. And he also let that bully, Aurangzeb, know that the Sikhs, they were not under his rule, and that we were free people. So I have a question for you. So I want you to think about this. How do you think the Mughal Empire, how do you think they reacted to the event of the Vaisakhi of 1699? What do you think went through their minds? How do you think they would react to something like this? So the Mughals, they actually did not react very well to Guru Gobind Singh Ji's assertion of saying that the Sikhs were free people. So in fact, in 1699 and for many years afterwards, there were many, many battles between the Khalsa army and the Mughal armies. One of the first battles was the Battle of Anandpur. And if you take a look at the screen, this is actually one of my most favorite paintings ever. This is by Bachittar Singh. And the story of Bhai Bachittar Singh, it's so remarkable because it tells you an impact of one person that one person could make against an entire army. So as you take a look at Bhai Bachittar Singh's picture, I just wanted to share the Sakhi briefly with you. So Bhai Bachittar Singh took Amrit in 1699 also, and he became a part of the Khalsa army. He fought his first battle of Anandpur against the hill chiefs. It was around the 1700s, or September of 1700. And some historians say that Guru Gobind Singh Ji personally selected him. Others say that Bhai Bachittar Singh offered to go and fight against this horrible elephant that was coming their way. So the story goes, or the Sakhi goes, that at this point the Mughal army had surrounded Anandpur, and the Khalsa army found out that the Mughals were about to send an elephant, not just any elephant, but a war elephant. And they were going to send the biggest war elephant that you can imagine. So this war elephant was covered with armor, and they were going to try, this war elephant was going to try to trample down the door of the Fort Lohgad. So the Khalsa army, they weren't scared, but they started thinking about, well, how are we going to stop this elephant? And Guru Gobind Singh Ji, he said, I'm not worried. He said, it'll be handled. And then some of the Khalsas, they heard that this war elephant, it wasn't just any war elephant, but it was going to be a drunken war elephant, meaning that it had no control of its senses. But Guru Gobind Singh Ji still wasn't very scared. So then Bhai Bachittar Singh, he offered to go and fight against this elephant. So he got on his horse and he took a look at all the possible weapons that he could use, and he chose what looked like a spear, but it had like a corkscrew at the end. This is called a nagni. So he chose his nagni and he got onto his horse and he waited for the right moment of when the elephant was about to approach the fort. So he got on his horse and he went faster and faster and faster until he basically took his spear and he thrusted it into the elephant's forehead, and it went through the armor right into the elephant's forehead. Well, this elephant, he was in so much pain and he was so confused that he ended up basically running back towards the Mughal army and trampling a lot of the Mughal soldiers and creating so much havoc and confusion that it ended up giving the Khalsa army an upper hand in this conflict. So I love this Sakhi because, again, this was just one person who ended up making such a huge impact on in this battle.
So Harlev, can I just add? So what you're saying is that in 1699, when Guru Sahib, created or formed the Khalsa, at that time there was also like a large group of people who were really scared because Aurangzeb was obviously threatening them or hurting citizens. And on the other hand, Guru Sahib was giving strength and faith to people to say that, hey, we can fight this, we can be strong and make this happen. So these two things were kind of going on at the same time, and Bachittar Singh is an example of obviously what Guru Sahib, the inspiration that Guru Sahib put into the Sikhs of the time, the Khalsa of the time, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I think the Khalsa army also gave people hope that they could fight against, a tyrant or a bully like Aurangzeb at that time.
Right. Great.
So, so there was just many, many years of battles from beginning from 1699 onwards. Most of the battles took place around Anandpur. Guru Sahib had many forts around the Anandpur area. So Lohgad was one of the forts. So back to the Bhai Bichitter Singh Sakhi, it was actually Fort Lohgad that Bhai Bichitter Singh was defending at that time, and that's because they couldn't the Mughal army, they couldn't figure out how to get inside that fort, because every time they would get close, the Khalsa army was able to shoot them down with arrows. So then that's when they thought of, you know what, we'll send this crazy elephant. But the Khalsa army, they outsmarted them by sending Bhai Bichitter Singh their way. So then there were, like I said, there were many, many battles that took place. And then finally, I'm going to kind of transport you back in time to the year about 1704. And I want you to imagine that we're also inside Anandpur Sahib. And all around us, we're surrounded by these dense hills, and within these dense hills, there are these tiny little kingdoms. And each of these kingdoms has its own king, but they're becoming, a lot of these kings are becoming a little nervous, because now all of a sudden, Guru Gobind Singh Ji is becoming so likable by all these other people. All these other people, they want to become Khalsas, and they want to become followers of the Guru, because they see him as someone who's trying to protect everyone, or who's trying to help everyone. So then these hill chiefs, or these kings from these little kingdoms, they're just not sure what to do. So they end up asking Aurangzeb. They said, you know what, Emperor, we need your help, because Guru Gobind Singh Ji, he wants us to join hands with him, and he wants us to fight against you. So Aurangzeb, he says, you know what? He tells the hill chiefs, he says, I will protect you guys. I will help you guys fight against Guru Gobind Singh Ji. So Aurangzeb sends a huge army of 5,000 to 7,000 that surrounds Anandpur Sahib. And basically, they're just trying to make Guru Gobind Singh Ji and the Khalsa army leave Anandpur. So they've completely surrounded they've completely surrounded Anandpur, and after some time, there's a man named Raja Ajmer Chand, and he sends a representative to the Guru, and he tells Guru Sahib, he says, you know what? He says, we promise that if you will evacuate Anandpur, we will give you a safe passage. We will not harm you or any of your Sikhs. So Guru Sahib, he gets this message. What do you think Guru Sahib's thinking? What are some thoughts that are going through Guru Sahib's head as he receives his message? Do you think they should go ahead and evacuate Anandpur? Do you think Guru Sahib can trust the Mughal army at this time and know that they won't harm the Sikhs or Guru Sahib? What do you think? So actually, at first, Guru Sahib, he refused to accept the offer. But many of his followers, there was a lack of food, there was a lack of supplies. They asked Guru Sahib, you know what, please accept this proposal. And as more and more followers pressured the Guru to accept the offer, Guru Sahib sent his own message to Ajmer Chand. And he said, you know what? He said, we'll go ahead and evacuate Anandpur, but first, I would like our treasury to leave the fort first. And so the Mughals said, okay, that's fine. Let's go ahead and do that. So if you take a look, Guru Sahib sent out a caravan of bullock carts, and it was all completely loaded up. And the Mughals said, yeah, we promise. You guys can go ahead and send out the treasury first. It'll be fine. Do you think everything is fine? Unfortunately, the Mughals couldn't be trusted because they ended up attacking what was supposed to be the treasury. But Guru Sahib knew that they couldn't be trusted. So instead of actually sending out the actual treasury, a lot of these bullock carts, they were actually filled with trash and dirt and just basically unwanted material because Guru Sahib was just testing their sincerity, and unfortunately they couldn't be trusted, right? Because they promised that they weren't going to attack and they ended up attacking. So what do you think would happen next? So then Guru Sahib actually said, we're not going to evacuate Anandpur, and he refused to accept any other proposals from the Mughal forces. And then actually, sorry, so in spring of 1705, the Mughal army, they made it even more difficult for the Khalsa army to stay in Anandpur. Not only had they surrounded the fort completely, the fort was completely under siege, but they also cut off all supplies going into the fort. So at this point, the Khalsa army, they weren't able to get any more supplies, and they were completely running out of food. So they stayed inside the fort for 7 long months, and many of the Sikhs inside the fort, they told Guru Sahib, they said, this is becoming too difficult. We really want to go home. We want to go see our families. And there was a band of about 40 of them, and they told Guru Sahib, okay, Guru Sahib, this is becoming too much. We really need to go home. So Guru Sahib, he didn't force them to stay, but he did tell them, he said, you are more than welcome to go home, but if you decide to go home, I need you to sign something for me. And the 46, they started looking at Guru Sahib and they said, well, what do you want us to sign? And Guru Sahib said, I want you to sign this letter stating that I am no longer your guru and you are no longer my Sikhs. So now that group of 40 Sikhs, they started looking at Guru Sahib, and it was very, very difficult for them to sign this paper. But they had been in this fort for many, many months, for several months at this point, and and they really just wanted to go home. So they reluctantly signed this paper, and they went home. So finally, at this time, even Emperor Aurangzeb, he was becoming a little tired of this of this siege also. So he sent a letter basically swearing his name on the Quran, and he told the Guru and the followers that they would be allowed a safe passage if they decided to evacuate Anandpur. And at this point, the Guru Sahib, he knew that Aurangzeb couldn't be trusted, but he also saw the health of the Khalsa army, and they decided to evacuate Anandpur. And again, they ended up breaking their promise because soon after the Khalsa army left the fort, they were attacked on the very first night by the Imperial army.
Harlip, can we go back to that picture before this, please? So I wanted to bring up two things because I wanted to relate it back to 1699. And so when Guru Sahib formed the Khalsa for us, when he created the Khalsa for us, one of the things that he did was he created our Panj Pyare. And he said, from now on, you are my Guru. I am your Chela, actually, right? So
right?
when in these forts, when he had to make some of these decisions about whether they should leave or not leave, um, was it as if he was consulting with the guru to understand what is the right course to take?
I think they were always, as a group, they were always strategizing and they were always talking about it. But I think after the several months that they had been in that fort, I think it just became just very dreary and very just tiresome being there.
Correct. And also, is this kind of showing us that even though things were dreary, even though things were difficult, the connection with Vaheguru was so important that they would continuously join together as a Sangat to remember to uh, sing the praises of divine. That wasn't just because they were having a hard time, they weren't forgetting what the main purpose was, what the main focus was, right? Is this maybe an
Exactly.
example of a picture? Yeah,
Exactly, because even in post-Guru period, we know that when the Sikhs were living in jungles, they they would meet as a sangat quite often, and they would do nitnem together, and they would do kirtan together and simran together, because I mean that's a big source of our strength, right? Where we get a lot of our strength is through Gurbani.
right. So that I like that we're showing this picture, and it's important for all our little cores and things to remember that sometimes things can be extremely difficult, but we do have a place, we do have a special thing that can help us strengthen ourselves. And one of those things is remembering Vaheguru and seeing the qualities of Vaheguru through Kirtan and Nitnem and Sangat.
Absolutely. So, so as the Khalsa army, as they were kind of resting or and doing, just they were enjoying the Sangat with one another, they were attacked by the imperial army. So they got back on their horsebacks, and it was time for them to just keep moving on. So the next slide, it shows us, this is called Parvar Vichoda. Vichoda means separation, and Parvar obviously means family, and it's not really just Guru Gobind Singh Ji's immediate family, it was the Khalsa family that was all separated at this point. So as Guru Sahib and the Khalsa army and all these other family members were trying to cross the Satluj River in December, that river had overflowed. It was completely flooded, and it was very cold, and it was just so dangerous for for everyone to cross that river. So those Khalsas that were on horseback, many of them made it across the river safely. But unfortunately, at this time, Sahibzada Zorawar Singh and Sahibzada Fateh Singh, the younger two Sahibzade, and Mata Gujri Ji were separated from Guru Gobind Singh Ji and the older Sahibzade and the Khalsa army. This next slide, I really like this because if you look at that big star, that's exactly where the families were separated. And if you follow the blue line, it shows where Guru Gobind Singh Ji and the older Sahibzade went. And if you follow the red line or that dark purple line, it shows the path that Mata Gujri Ji and the Chote Sahibzade went. So it shows that they were separated. They ended up in different directions, unfortunately. Jasmine, do you want to explain the activity before we go on with the
Yeah,
Sakhi?
right. So those of you who had registered a little while ago, you probably got an email with a PDF document. And we are going to be we want you all to make a coat of arms. And a coat of arms is really like a special symbol that knights or warriors used to wear to identify themselves. So if you did not get your PDF document, if you look in your panel, there is something called handouts. And under there it says 1 Sahibzade activity.pdf. So you can print that out. What we want you to do starting now, because we're going to be start talking about the Sahibzade and who they were and what their qualities are. So we want you all to think about some words or some symbols that come to your mind that you would like to make as part of a coat of arms to show what their character was and who they were. And so basically, when someone looks at that, they'll be able to see the characteristics of all the Char Sahibzade when they see that. So as we're going on through the presentation, think of some of these words. You can maybe jot down some notes. And at the end, we would like you to maybe share what you think some of your ideas are going to be. Once the webinar is finished, you're actually going to create your own coat of arms, and you'll take a nice picture of it and send it to Sikh Research Institute, and we'll put it on social media for you so that everyone can get to see it. So hopefully, as Harliv continues, as we start talking more about the Sahibzade, you will get your thinking mind on and creative mind on, and think about symbols and words that can identify our Sahibzades.
Okay. So if you want to start on your coat of arms, we are going to go ahead and look at the first Sahibzada, Sahibzada Ajit Singh. I'm just going to give you some facts about Sahibzada Ajit Singh before we continue on with the Sakhi about where Guru Sahib and the Vade Sahibzade went, and Mata Gujri Ji and the Chote Sahibzade. So the first Sahibzada we're going to talk about is Sahibzada Ajit Singh Ji. He was born in 1687 in Paonta, in the city of Paonta, also known as Paonta Sahib now. His name means invincible, so too powerful to be defeated. So if you, on your coat of arms, if you were to create some kind of a symbol, what would show that he was invincible, that he was very powerful? What kind of symbol or icon or logo would you use for Sahibzada Ajit Singh? He learned martial arts at a very young age. So if you can imagine, he grew up watching the Khalsa army train all around him. So he ended up picking up, martial arts or gatka at a very, very young age. And he fought his first battle at the age of 12. So again, this is just what somebody thinks that Sahibzada Ajit Singh and Sahibzada Jujhar Singh and Guru Gobind Singh Ji looked like. Obviously, these aren't actual pictures, but if you, even in this artist's, in his imagination, when he drew Sahibzada Jujhar Singh, it's somebody who's looking at his brother with, in just awe. He admires his older brother and he wants to be just like him. And when we learn about Sahibzada Jujhar Singh through history, and even when we watched the movie The Char Sahibzade, that's exactly what we saw, that Sahibzada Jujhar Singh, he watched his brother fight in battle and become a shaheed in battle. But yet, instead of becoming scared of becoming wounded or becoming hurt, he was inspired, and he wanted to be just like his big brother, and he wanted to go out and fight just like Sahibzada Ajit Singh Ji. So Sahibzada Jujhar Singh, he was born in 1691 in Anandpur, and his name means warrior. So again, on your coat of arms, what would be a great symbol to show a warrior, to show somebody who's a warrior, or to represent a warrior? He definitely admired his older brother, like I mentioned, and he was fierce in the battlefield. In fact, I think Guru Gobind Singh Ji was a little surprised that that, Sahibzada Jujhar Singh, being so young, he had learned how to fight so well. And again, Sahibzada Jujhar Singh also watched the Khalsa army train, uh, and also he had an opportunity to watch his older brother Sahibzada Ajit Singh also train as well and fight in battle. So Sahibzada Jujhar Singh was only 14 years old when he died in battle, or he became shaheed in the Battle of Chamkaur. Um,
So one of the things, Harlev, when we talk about shaheed, it means that someone is, giving up knowing that they're giving up their life for something that they believe in, and they kind of know that what the consequence is going to be, but yet they're willing to kind of go forward and do it. So in a way, in order to explain shaheed in a simple way, it's a very deep meaning, but in a simple way, it's basically giving up your life for your faith, and not only for your faith actually, but standing up for anyone else's faith too, because we have other examples in Sikh history as well. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up, when we talk about Baba Jujhar Singh and Baba Ajit Singh going towards their Shahidi, is that in Sikh tradition, or in kind of Sikh thinking, one of the things that when someone is getting ready to go to their death, they get themselves ready, just similar to when someone is getting married. The whole family, or the father, the mother, they're helping their daughter or their son get married. So it's as if they're getting ready for marriage, but they're getting ready for the ultimate marriage of the connection with Vaheguru, knowing that their body is no longer going to be around. So that's a very common kind of, we use it in the kind of language that we use. We talk about that when someone is getting ready for Shahidi, for death, it's as if they're getting themselves ready as a bridegroom or a bride. So I thought that would be, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say we had talked about that earlier, that after Sahibzada Jujhar Singh, after he watched his brother basically, become shaheed in battle, he went up to Guru Gobind Singh Ji and he said himself, Guru Sahib, or, Pitaji, I also want to go out and fight. And, some of the historians and also kavis, people who've written poems about the Sahibzade, they write about Guru Gobind Singh Ji actually getting Sahibzada Jujhar Singh prepared for battle himself. So, he went ahead and, got his headgear ready and helped him choose the right type of Siddhi Sahib to go out and fight. So yeah,
Right.
Absolutely. Just like parents would help a bride or a groom get ready. So I want to take you back to the Sakhi. So after the Vade Sahibzade, after they became separated from Mata Gujri Ji and the younger Sahibzade, they ended up heading to Chamkaur. So if you take a look in this image, they're showing that the Mughals have surrounded the Fort Chamkaur, the Chamkaur di Gadi, and Sahibzada Ajit Singh and Sahibzada Jujhar Singh. This is where they both fought their last battles, and both of them became shaheed at this battle. And it was a very fierce battle. And the Khalsa army, they wanted Guru Sahib to evacuate the fort just on his own. They asked him to leave the fort so that Sikhi could continue, right? But Guru Sahib didn't feel right leaving the fort. But then Just like as Jasmine had said, Ke, when Panch Pyare, when they give you an order, it's almost like an order from the Guru. So Panch Pyare came up to Guru Sahib and they asked him, they said, we're asking you to please leave the fort. So Guru Sahib ended up leaving the fort. But what they did, it was very clever. So they used this very clever strategy where another Sikh resembled the Guru very closely. So Guru Sahib and this other Sikh, by Sant Singh, they ended up exchanging their clothes, and Guru Sahib gave him his galgi and his bow and arrow, and Guru Sahib left the fort. So the Imperial Army didn't even realize that Guru Sahib had left because they still saw that somebody was sitting up in the tower, and they thought for sure that was Guru Gobind Singh Ji. So eventually they ended up breaking into the fort, and they ended attacking the fort, and the Sikhs that were remaining in the fort, they fought hard, but they all became shaheed. But Guru Sahib Ji had already safely left the fort by then. So while Guru Sahib and a couple of other Sikhs, as they left the fort, they headed off to Machiwara. But let's see what was happening with Mata Gujri Ji and the younger Sahibzade at this time. So Mata Gujri Ji, as you know, she is the mother of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and she was with Guru Sahib Ji while they were in Anandpur when the Mughals had attacked. And when at the Sirsa River, when the family became separated, Mataji and the younger Sahibzade, they ended up, instead of trying to cross the river, they started walking along the banks of the river just to find some kind of safe passage. And remember, it's the month of December. It's very, very, very cold, and in this picture, it's kind of showing that they're kind of drenched in water, so they're trying to find a warm place, warm and safe place. So as they're walking, they find somebody who ends up being a very kind soul. His name is Gumma, and he asks Mataji and the younger Sahibzade to bless his home by staying with him for the night. So Gumma did a lot of seva for them, and we provided them a safe and warm place to stay for the night, and made sure that the younger Sahibzade had warm milk and food to eat for that night. But as the Sahibzade and Mata Gujri Ji, as they were staying there, someone else found out that they were staying at Gumma's house. Now, this was a very familiar face to them. This was Gangu Brahman. And so Gangu used to work in the house of the Guru. So when he came to Gumma's house and he said, Mataji, you must come and stay with me. So Mataji and the younger Sahibzade, they immediately felt comfortable because they knew Gangu. Gangu was an old friend. So they were so happy to see him. So now we're just gonna pause really quick, and because I want you to I just want you to have some information about the Sahibzade so you can continue to add on to your coat of arms. So we're gonna add some information about Sahibzada Zorawar Singh. He was born in Anandpur in 1696, and his name, Zorawar, means brave. What would be a good icon for the word brave? So we're gonna see why Sahibzada Zorawar Singh and Sahibzada Fateh Singh, why they were so brave, and what they did that people thought was so brave and so unique to somebody who was so young. And Sahibzada Zorawar Singh, he was martyred also, but we'll find out a little bit more about this as the Sakhi continues. And next we have Sahibzada Fateh Singh. Does anyone know what Fateh means? What does the word Fateh mean? So he was born in 1699, and Fateh means victory. How do you show victory? Victory mean like to win. I guess that would be one way to describe a victory, right? Another meaning for victory. So Sahibzada Fateh Singh was very, very young when he stood up to the crew of Wazir Khan, and we're going to find out a little bit more about that in the Sakhi as we continue. But I just wanted you to have some information about Sahibzada Zorawar Singh and Sahibzada Fateh Singh before we continued on. This is one example of the coat of arms that someone had done, and they ended up using the words that we used in our PowerPoint. So they ended up using words like victory and warrior, invincible and brave. But you don't have to use those words. You decide however you want to represent each of the Sahibzade. So as I was telling you, I want to go back to the image of that familiar face of Gangu Brahmin. And they went and stayed with Gangu. And Gangu was very, very kind. He gave them a place to rest, and they ate. They did raras, and they were about to go to bed. But as they were sleeping, Gangu snuck into their room and took some of the gold from Mataji's pouch. So Mataji didn't say anything at the time, but in the morning she kind of just asked, she said, hey Gangu, I think we heard like some rumbling in our room last night, and some of our things, they had been moved around. And so Gangu, he acted like he was really, really offended, and he said, are you accusing me? Are you accusing me of stealing? Are you accusing me of coming in and touching your things? How dare you? So Mataji tried to calm Gangu down, and she said, Gangu, no, I'm not saying anything like that. I was just asking you. But Gangu continued to raise his voice, and he said, after all I've done for you, I've given you a place to rest in my house, and here you are accusing me. And so Gangu stormed out of the house, and he didn't end up becoming, he wasn't really a good friend. In fact, he ended up betraying Mataji and the younger Sahibzade because he had them arrested. He went and informed the authorities that Guru Gobind Singh Ji's family was staying at his house, and the police came and they ended up arresting the younger Sahibzade and Mataji. Oops, sorry. So as they went to, they were taken to the prison in Morinda. So each night, Mataji, she would take the Sahibzade and she would hold them close, and they would recite Sodar, and Mataji would tell them stories of their great-great-grandfather of Guru Arjan Dev Ji and their grandfather Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji and all these other brave Sikhs. And she would recite Shabads of Guru Nanak Badshaah and just tell them all these wonderful stories to inspire them and to give them courage. So if you take a look at this next slide, it shows the Thanda Burj, and this is where this is one image of again what an artist thought where Guru Sahib's family was staying. So this Thanda Burj, it was this cold tower that really didn't provide any warmth because it was kind of open to the elements. And remember, it's December, it's freezing cold, and so Mataji is just trying to keep her lal, or her loved ones, her two beloved grandsons, she's trying to warm them up through sharing stories of strength and sakhis of courage and bravery. So then the next morning, the younger Sahibzade, they were summoned to the court of the Wazir Khan. And I love this image because it shows the younger Sahibzade entering the court. And if you can take a look at this, there's actually a huge door, because if you can imagine those big guards that are standing around the Sahibzade. Obviously, they're not going to be able to enter the court through that tiny little window. But those clever Mughals, they were trying to get the younger Sahibzade to bow down to Vizier Khan as they entered the court. But the Sahibzade, without even thinking twice, they saw that they had to enter through the window, and instead of bowing down, they entered with their feet first. So they stepped into the court rather than bowing down to Vizier Khan. So as they entered the court, they walked in and they said, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. And everybody was so surprised that these two young little souls, they walked in and they weren't scared. It was actually just the opposite. They just came in with so much chardikla, and Vizier Khan was just surprised, and he said, this isn't your father's court. You're supposed to bow down to the emperor, to the Vizier Khan as you enter. This is my court. And so they were trying to figure out what would be an appropriate punishment for the sons of the Guru. So a lot of the other Nawabs, they recommended that the punishment should be some kind of death or some kind of torture. But there was one Nawab from Malir Kotla, and he just wasn't in agreement. He just didn't think that it was right for the Chote Sahibzade to be punished because, Vizier Khan and Aurangzeb, they had this grudge against Guru Gobind Singh Ji. They didn't think it was fair, or he didn't think it was fair. And in fact, he disagreed so much that he just ended up leaving. But everybody else said, these younger Sahibzade, they're almost like the son of a snake is going to become a snake when they grow up. So they're going to end up fighting against you at some time. So Vizier Khan, he said, Sahibzade, I want you to think about this. What if we go ahead and release you today? What will you do? And the Sahibzade, they looked him in the eye and they said, we are the sons of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and we are the grandchildren of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji. If you release us, we will gather an army and we will attack you. And so then the Nawab, he started laughing because he thought they were just, of course, they must be kidding. They're just little children. He said, and what if you are defeated? And then the Sahibzade said, then we will get up again and we will gather another army and we will fight you and all those that have caused so much tyranny and oppression. And they said, we will continue to fight you until our last breath. So then the Nawab was so shocked at the response of these two younger Sahibzade. And he said, you've insulted me. And so now he said, either you convert to Islam or you will have to face the sword. And the younger Sahibzade, they weren't afraid. So the younger Sahibzade, he tried to tempt them with bribes of gold and all these wonderful sweets and palaces, all these wonderful things, and they weren't tempted by any of it. They said, we don't want any of it. We just want to stay Sikh, and we want to remain Khalsas, and everybody should be able to be free. So then, again, he said, you know what, I'm going to give you one more chance. So he sent the Sahibzade back to Mata Gujri Ji, and Mata Gujri Ji, she asked them, she said, tell me what happened. So the Sahibzade explained. They said, we went into the court, and the Vizier Khan tried to scare us, and this was our answer. And she was so, so proud of them. And again, they spent that evening in the Thanda Burj doing Nam Simran and hearing more Sakhis and doing lots of Path. And then the next morning, the Sahibzade came against the Nawab once more. And he says, I hope you have come to a decision and you will accept Islam. But the Sahibzade had not changed their mind. So then so Vizier Khan, he ordered that the Sahibzade be bricked alive. And a lot of the people in the court, they were so shocked that Vizier Khan would have such an awful punishment for such young children. But no one was really brave enough to say anything to him because he was such a big bully. But yet these young Sahibzade, here they were, they stood up to this big bully, and they told him exactly what they thought. But all these grown-ups inside that courtroom, they were too afraid to say anything, even if they thought Vizier Khan was wrong. So the Sahibzade, they were bricked alive, and the Sakhi goes that the Sahibzade, they didn't become shaheed in that wall, and so after the Mughals realized that the Sahibzade were still breathing inside the wall, they were beheaded. This Sakhi for me, it's so beautiful. It's very hard to share, but it's so beautiful because it just shows the strength of children. We can all be as strong as the Sahibzade. We can all stand up to bullies. Like, there might not be bullies like Aurangzeb now in our world, but there's still bullies, and that's exactly what the Sahibzade did. They stood up to a bully of their time. So another activity that we were going to have you do was write a message to the laws. And I'm going to have Jasmine share a little bit more about that activity.
Right. So, like Harlip said, they were told that they were going to be bricked alive, and so we spoke about some of the things where they were brave and they weren't fearful and stuff. And I want you to think about something. I want you to think about, well, how did they develop those characters? What kind of things did they do that gave them those strengths and those characteristics? And we spoke about a couple of the things, and one of it was that, Mataji, their Dadiji, was there with them doing Naam Simran, doing Rehras. They were focusing on Bani a lot. And the other thing was that just like the Vadde Sahibzade, they were getting trained in martial arts. These younger Sahibzade were seeing that, and it was kind of like their regular play. That's the kind of, they would strategize together, they would play together, and a lot of those things were actually helping them get strength and build their characteristics. So we want you to focus on those strengths and characteristics, and we want you to write a message on their, let's say you have a brick, again, you have the handout. In there, we have an image of a brick wall, and we want you to write a message to them as if you're having a conversation with them, as if you're saying something to them. And this is one example that Bani Kaur, actually Harlip's daughter, she wrote for us, and she said, "Thank you for sacrificing yourselves. You taught us to not fear anything and to have courage for what you believe in." And that is really important, that you have to, first of all, you have to know what you believe in. And secondly, you have to have the courage to stand up for it, right? And not only, so Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji is a great example. Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji was the Char Sahibzade's Dadaji. So he stood up for something that he felt that someone else even had the right to believe in. So even though he didn't believe in what the Kashmiri Pandits believed in, he believed that it was important for him to stand up for something that someone else was believing in. So he gave up his life. He became a shaheed because he believed in the right to live your faith. And so those are the kind of things, because those were the Char Sahibzade's Dadaji. Those were the stories they used to hear. But guess what? Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, Guru Arjan Sahib Ji, these are all our forefathers too. So they are all part of us. So we can take their stories and build our courage too, and build our strength too. So when you're writing, when you're creating your coat of arms, when you are writing the message of the bricks, we really, really want you to focus on some of those things.
Has anyone already started working on their coat of arms that maybe you want to share one or two things that you came up with for the Sahibzade?
So if you have done that, what you would do is you, in the chat panel on the webinar, you can write comments to Balpreet Kaur, letting her know your name and where you're from and whether you have a mic, and if you would like to share what you think your coat of armor is going to be like, and also what the message is going to, what message you would write to the Sahibzade. Well, Preet Kaur, at this point, do you have anyone who might be willing to share something, or we can maybe wrap up the Sakhi in the meantime, if that's the case. So, Balpreet Kaur?
Yeah, I think Harsharan Kaur Penji from Maryland would like to share. So I'm gonna unmute her.
Okay.
As well. Harsharan Penji? We also got an idea from Gurpreet Kaur. Her son Jodha Singh drew a gold medal for Baba Fateh Singh Ji.
Oh, wonderful.
Jodha Singh, we're looking forward to seeing the final product. So make sure you send it to the website.
Jodha Singh, if you're listening in, we would also like to see if you can share what is on your gold medal, whether you wrote something or you made any other things on it. And are we able to get Harshan Kaur on the mic?
No, it seems like she's unavailable.
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Gurfateh, Jasmine, and Harliv. I'm calling you from Maryland, and excellent presentation. My question was about the Panj Pyare. Given the elevated position given to them by Guru Gobind Singh Ji, in today's time and age when we have Panj Pyares leading Nagar Kirtans or any parades, what is the bar for choosing a Panj Pyare? Is it sufficient that they be Amritdhari, or should they be people who have made very substantial contributions to the Panth? And in the same vein, if you have children and youth who are Amritdharis, is it appropriate to have them as Panj Pyare or not? Thank you.
Harlan, do you want me to go first, or you want to? So, Panji, thank you so much for your question. I do want to make sure, for the sake of the audience, since this is focused on kids, the question doesn't relate directly to the Sahibzade, but I understand the spirit of your question. So, the way I would like to answer is that Guru Sahib gave guruship to Guru Granth and Guru Panth. Okay, so when he chose his Panch Pyare, he was very clear. He said, who is willing to come to me and give their head? Now, some people can take head literally, but on a larger level, what we've come to understand is give yourself up completely, right, to the Guru. And that commitment in the current terms, in the terms of the Rat Maryada, in the terms of understanding of what Sikhi is that you make a commitment to the Guru through Amrit, right? So we, Harliv and I, cannot make a decision as to whether or not the Panch Pyare that are going to participate in the Nagar Kirtan should be Amritari only, because then those questions keep kind of building on each other, right? Yes, they should be Amritari, but do they live the life of what an Amritari should live? What is exactly defined as what the life of an Amritari is? So these kind of questions are something that the community has to come together and make a decision together on. But when we look at what Guru Sahib has told us, it's very clear that there's, the Panch Pyare were the ones who made a complete commitment to the Guru. So in a larger sense, I hope that kind of gives you the answer. I know sometimes we look for very particular answers, but if we look at history and we look at what the precedent has been during the time, during post-Guru, during the idea that once the Panch Pyare were together with the Guru Granth and they gave the decision to Guru Sahib to leave, he accepted their decision, right? And he went. So those are the kind of things that we need to look at in order to make our current day decisions as well. I hope that helps with the answer a little bit. Harliv, if you want to add anything to that, that would.
No, I think that was a very good answer. So I wanted to see if are there any other kids who have anything else to share as far as their coat of arms? Because I just want to make sure we have enough time for some of our kiddos.
Navdeep Benji from Fresno, California is chiming in. Her son Rajdeep Singh and Simran Kaur drew a sword raised to the sky to represent Jujhar Singh and thought of drawing a flag planted on the ground as a mark of victory for Sahibzada Fateh Singh Ji. So I'm going to open up Navdeep Benji's mic so they can explain as well. Hello?
Anji. Navdeep Benji, please go ahead and share.
Well, those sound like fantastic ideas. The idea of drawing the flag, I mean, it's a perfect symbol of victory. So we can't wait to see the finished product. So please, send it in.
Miraj Vyuji is asking a question if the presentation will be posted on the website so that we can share it with our own Sangats back home.
Usually, Sikri, from what I understand, Sikri just asks you to send them an email requesting it, and then they try to figure out the best way that they can send it to you. But I don't know particularly if it will be posted on the website, but there's definitely ways that you can ask for it, and you can write to info@sikhri.org to ask for it. Anyone else wants to share their message on the brick wall or examples that they're going to be thinking about for their coat of arms, or any other questions that we can particularly try to relate to the Char Sahibzade?
One of the things that we were going to do at our local Gurdwara was we were going to post these around the Gurdwara, because this is the time when the Parvar Bichoda happened. So it happened in December, in late December. So in these, for me, as people are celebrating the holidays, for us, I always look at our family as celebrating in a different way. We're celebrating the lives of the Sahibzade and celebrating the sacrifices of the Sahibzade, because they really helped shape Sikh history to what it is, right? They offered us strength, and to like I mentioned before, they gave us these little doses of strength, helping us realize that one person can make a big difference, and so I think just having these messages of the brick wall all around your Gurdwara, and having the kids write little messages about what they get, what kind of strength do they get from these sakis, it would be very inspirational for your local sangats. So if you want to consider that idea for Khalsa schools, or just as a regular sangat, that would be great.
We have another question coming through. Excuse me. Jasleen Kaur is wondering, was Mata Gujri ji ever worried for the Sahibzade?
Sorry, what's that question again?
Was Mata Gujri ever worried for the Sahibzade? I think she was a grandmother. We're all human, so obviously I think she knew that the Sahibzade, they weren't going to waver in front of Wazir Khan in that court. I don't think she was scared for them, but obviously as a grandmother, she wanted them to be safe, because being the mother of the Guru, she knew that they had all this strength because of the values that they were raised with. But I think at the end of the day, she was still a grandmother. That's my thought.
Yeah. I agree with Harliv. That's definitely a grandmother, a mother is anything. But what I want everyone to also remember is that, Mata Gujri ji was the wife of Guru Tegh Bahadur ji, right? And Guru Tegh Bahadur ji also gave Shahidi for all of us. So she had been through such a difficult thing. At this point, she was with her Chote Sahibzade. And the reason why I use the word lal, even, the message to your lal, but that's the kind of vocabulary that they used to use, like mere beloved Hagen. And also her son is somewhere where she doesn't know where he is at this point. So even though I'm glad the question that was asked was she worried, and the question wasn't asked, was she scared? Because those are two different things. Yes, you could be a little concerned, you could be a little worried, but yes, I don't think she was scared. I think Harliv put it really clean and well, that she knew the values that she had given them, that their entire family had, that wouldn't make them waver. Any other questions, comments, or thoughts?
I think the perspective, could you comment on what lessons, what Mata Gujri told the Sahibzade in terms of never forgetting who you are and your identity?
What's the question again? I'm sorry.
On request of Inni Kartenji, could you share what Mata Gujri told the Sahibzade in terms of never forgetting who you are and your identity?
Okay. In terms of the sakis that she shared uh, with her Sahibzade, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she, she spoke about their grandfather. She spoke about her father, the Sahibzade's fathers, and giving that understanding that, like Benji even said in her question, right, that you don't, no matter who you are, what you look like, what you believe in, you have to stand up for it. And that's what gives you the strength of who you are. Carla, did you want to add something else to
Yeah,
that?
I mean, so like when I imagine Mata Gujriji talking to her Sahibzade, I imagine her not saying, "Now, Sahibzada Fateh Singh, you must do this." I imagine her giving examples. Okay, Sahibzada Fateh Singh, well, this is how your grandfather fought back, or this is how Guru Arjan Sahib fought back. Um, so not giving them direct messages, but almost giving them examples of real life examples of the things that have taken place, and hope, and she just knows that that's where they're going to derive their strength from. And then also, we talked about the strength from Bani, talking about from Gurbani, just talking about helping them understand Gurbani, and at the end, when they are slowly being bricked into the wall, that's what they were doing. They weren't just chit-chatting, they were standing there and they were doing Nam Simran. Possibly doing Japji Sahib. Maybe they were just saying Vaheguru, Vaheguru. But that's what they were gaining their strength from.
We have another question from Niraj. As a Sikh Sangat, we have failed to spread the message and values from the Char Sahibzade. What action should be taken to make Sikh youth aware about the Char Sahibzade sacrifices and values?
No, I think it's applying the teachings of the Char Sahibzade to everyday life. One of the examples we've used throughout the webinar is bullying. It's not something that just happens with Sikh children. It happens with all children. I work at a school, and I see it happening every day. But it's just the idea of teaching all children that they need to stand up for one another. They need to be able to defend themselves, and that's what I learned from the Char Sahibzade. Not only were they standing up for themselves, but they were standing up for others. Why at the beginning of the Sakhi, we talked about how other communities, they were they seek shelter. They wanted shelter from Guru Gobind Singh Ji. It's because Guru Gobind Singh Ji, he was fighting a just cause. He was willing to defend those who couldn't defend themselves. So I think as a Sikh community, I think these are the type of things that we need to teach our children. It's not just about defending yourself. It's about defending those who can't defend themselves. And I think that's one of the messages that we've gotten from our gurus. Jasmine?
Yeah, that you got it. But some of the things that we as parents can do, we as a Sikh Sangat can do is, one, we have to share these stories with our kids, right? Just
Yes.
like Sikri is providing this service of putting up a webinar particularly focused for children on the Char Sahibzade. Similarly, I think we need to take our inspiration from Bani, and Bani even says something as easy as "Bamaniya kahaniya put karen." So even when we share these kinds of stories with our children, it changes an ordinary child into an extraordinary child. And that extraordinary child is the one who's going to stand up to defend everyone else's rights too. But if we don't share these stories, you know, I know December, my kids don't even go to, they're not even in kindergarten yet, but December is so focused on this commercial aspect of the holidays, but it's our job as parents to say, hey, there's something else that really special happened in December for us. And let's talk about, you know, what this is. Let's talk about the Char Sahibzade. Let's talk about Guru Sahib. In fact, recently I had this kind of feeling inside of me that, you know what, December should be, there should be 31 days of December all about the Char Sahibzade. And every single day, we just take little things that we can talk about. We can talk about their names and what does that mean. We can talk about what happened. We can talk about, someone had given suggestions. You know what, there's 31 rags. Let's talk about one rag a day. Bringing all of it together, that, you know, what the Sahibzade did wasn't in isolation from what all of Sikhi is. So we have to kind of show them that this is a building of 200-300 years to where Guru Sahib had brought it. And those things don't come overnight. They come slowly with time and energy. And that's when those extraordinary children are going to go out there and they're going to fight that bullying, and they're going to defend and stand up for anyone who needs defending. I hope that helps. Okay, maybe, Harlev, should we wrap up with the last slide? This might be a good transition into that, perhaps. Oh, sorry, there's the one other. So before we go into that last slide, then maybe I just want to remind everyone that we want you to finish making your coat of arms or the message on the brick. And what we would like to do is by the 22nd, at midnight of the 22nd of December, we'd like you to take a really nice picture of it so that we can clearly see all your pieces of it. And please send it to info@sikhri.org. And that is where you are going to, they're going to collect all these images, and they are then going to put it up on social media. Sikri has a great social media presence right now, and they're going to be putting it out probably around the 26th or so, you know, and we want everyone to look out for that. But our biggest request is that please complete this coat of arm and this message on a brick and send it to us, because we, both Harlev and I, would feel strongly that, you know, our doing this webinar was successful because everyone decided to participate and complete it. So that is a humble request from both Harlev and myself. And in the end, is there another slide, Harlev, that we have?
I think that's it.
That's it. So, oh, there it is.
So,
go ahead, Harlev.
No. I was just going to say, okay, going back to Virji's question, you know, this is something that it's worth having a conversation with our kids, is that the Sahibzade, they were defenders of the Panth, and they were defenders of, as I mentioned earlier, those who couldn't defend themselves. But what is worth defending for you? And that's why we thought of this coat of arms activity, because we wanted it to be relevant to you. Yes, we want you to come up with icons about the Sahibzade, but what is really worth defending for you? You know, maybe you're passionate. You're passionate about the earth, or whatever you're passionate about. Take that inspiration and figure out what you think is worth defending.
Yeah. So one of the things that, as I was listening, we were going through the webinar, I was thinking of things. One of the things that came to my mind was in Bani, they say, Sura so pehchaniye jo lade deen ke hai, purja purja kat mare, kabu na chad dekhe. So that individual is considered complete who comes into the battlefield, and even though they get cut up piece by piece, they don't give up. But that doesn't mean literally they get cut up piece by piece. That doesn't mean literally they come into a battlefield where they're holding a sword. They are coming into any situation that they feel that they need to defend. And sometimes in trying to defend something, it can be really stressful. It can be really difficult. It can be really painful where you're like, I want to just give up. I just want to cry about this because I can't deal with it. But Gurbani is telling us, you know what? You come into this battlefield of defending something, and no matter how irritating it gets, how difficult it gets, how mushkil it is, you got to keep going at it. And if you keep going at it, you will get a result, And the Char Sahibzade, that's what they did for us. They gave up their lives even for us so that we can be who we are today. And imagine, if we can't live up to what they were hoping for us to be, then are we really understanding, or are we really feeling why they did this for us? Maybe that's a question we want to ask ourselves.
Awesome. With that wrap up, I would like to thank Yukendi, Harlif Gar, and Jasmine Gar for sharing the Saki of the Char Sahibzade with us and asking and answering all of our questions so beautifully and giving us a lot to think about. And most of all, thank you everyone for all of your questions and participation in this web event. You're more than welcome to ask us any questions that you might have after this is over on our Twitter handle or on our Facebook page, and we will surely post the replies. Please be reminded that these webinars are provided for free, but there is a cost associated with its technology and administration. If you feel like you've benefited from this particular webinar or others in the past, please consider making a donation to SICRI or becoming a webinar sponsor. More details on this can be obtained in the follow-up email you will receive or by emailing us at info@sicri.org. A reminder for everyone, please wait a few seconds for the link to appear on the follow-up survey. Your feedback is extremely important to SICK Research Institute, and we appreciate your time. And as I end the webinar, I'd like to thank once again our wonderful presenters and the audience for being in Sangat today, albeit online. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.
Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you, Balpreet Kaur.
No problem, Ji.